wait is finally over, and now we have the Spengler's Neutrona wand from Hasbro. This is what it's going to look like when you get it from Hasbro Pulse. Naturally, it's going to have a big crease down the top of the box, so that if this winds up being collectible on any sort of level, it will be devalued because it is creased in the shipment, of which no particular care was given to the packaging of this. It's very sharp. You've got a number of graphics on there with various and sundry information that should fulfill your Ghostbusters fantasies. We go ahead and remove this sleeve, and we can see this appears to be a sort of toolbox or lockbox that is probably going to be featured in the new Ghostbusters Afterlife movie. None of this is raised or embossed or anything, it's just printed onto the cardboard. It still looks very good though. Little caution tape, because they know that us Ghostbusters fanboys really love caution tape. We got some hinges on the back, and of course the Ghostbusters logo, as though it's etched in to this metal there. You can hear stuff rattling around because I have, of course, removed the unit from the packaging already. This is what the inside of the box looks like now that I've kind of reorganized things. I will say that the wand is relatively well packaged on the inside there. But let's go ahead and take a look at the Spengler's Neutrona wand. Here we go. Wow, that is very cool. As someone that is a Spirit Pack peasant, such as myself, feeling the full-size wand is pretty crazy. I don't know that I've ever held a full-size wand. I don't think I've held the Matty wand. I have seen them in person. I haven't ogled them up close too much. But for my first full-size wand, this looks pretty cool. There's a lot of really good details on this, in my opinion. And some details which are not so great. I do feel like they went a little heavy with the silver paint on the edges. That's one of my pet peeves about weathering, when people go and do weathering on their Spirit Packs and whatnot, or even full-size builds. Settle down with the weathering, people, because yeah, not everything has to be hit with a paint pen and have thick silver streaks on it. That said, I feel like they've done a pretty good job. They did do some weathering to the handle here, but my problem with that is it looks like they hit it with the same brush, which makes sense just from a utility standpoint, but they just kind of went down the line, and you've got literally the same, like the same bristles made the same kind of look. So the weathering on it is a little bit cheap to me. I feel like they could have put together kind of a unit that maybe was a little bit more subdued on the weathering, but it is supposed to be a, you know, a weathered piece as it is in the film. So for that, it's obviously not a 100% facsimile. It is not prop grade. It's a toy. But with that said, it's pretty good, and people like myself are going to go ahead and mod this, and that's one of the mods that I've got coming. I will probably take some video of that and show you what I'm doing. This does have light and sound, which I will be going through with you in the video here, and I will be doing a sound mod so that I can get sound out of this to my customized Spirit Pack, which has a Sponge Face McGee soundboard on, and with that in mind, it will be able to take the auxiliary input from this. For those of you interested in doing that, make sure to subscribe, because I will be showing you how to do that and how I personally do that. I'm also personally interested in addition to doing the aesthetic mods and re-weathering this thing, the switch that throws the Neutrona wand's tube out the front, I kind of want that to be back here with the rest of the controls so that I can hit it and launch the tube out. So I'm going to bend the steel of this piece when I have this disassembled. I'm going to try and take that part out, isolate it, and then bend that steel around so that I can actuate it from this side of it. And that'll kind of be a custom Will the Ghostbuster customization. So that's something that I will be putting on there as well. Let's go ahead and take a look here. So you've got that switch, and if we click that, or rather if we pull the lever back, you'll notice we get an electronic sound that comes out of the speaker and the grill on the side, and of course the end of the wand shoots out. It is white in appearance because it has to have some sort of filtering medium, or rather some sort of film to disperse the LED lights that are underneath, and then also hide the actual LEDs and wiring for those lights. So it's not clear like you would see with other, film grade props, but it does a reasonable job, and it looks really cool while you're shooting it. The trigger tip is like the tip from the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie, and also like one of the props that were used in Ghostbusters, I think 2, perhaps Ghostbusters 1 as well, but the trigger tip was welded crooked, and that's just the way Egon's blaster was filmed, and that's what they copied with the Ghostbusters Afterlife prop. I have seen some commentary that people have loose banjo fittings on their blaster, and I think that that's kind of a double-edged sword, in that maybe they've done this so that it doesn't put strain on them, or this wire piece, or the actual wand tip itself. My front doesn't move at all, and then the rear spins around completely, which is weird and frustrating, and I will probably mod that as well so that it stays put. It does have an Allen key type of screw there. I cannot get that to tighten down. We'll have to get a little inventive with that, but you'll notice that it does in fact rotate, and it will spin all the way around. So that's that. Let's just go ahead and go through this. If we look at the switches, it's kind of interesting the way they've wired the switches up or done the programming on the boards inside the unit. The actual functionality has to be done in a certain sequence, and it is possible to lock it up, essentially. It's also worth noting that you've got metal both on the clipboard, on the front of the clipboard. This right here, this knob is metal as well as the intensity knob. These knobs are not metal on the side, and they are just black. This is a button up front, whereas it would normally be a hat light. I'm not sure if that got used in the films as a hat light, but that's what it's modeled as. And this would be a button, but they've decided to make that a button. So I know some people are doing some mods where they swap that out for a switch. I don't think I'm going to go that far with it. I'm just going to kind of make it look better and maybe make it function better in some ways. But I do like the wood grip. On my personal Spirit pack, I decided to go with a kind of a faux wood look. It doesn't look this good. It's just kind of brown with some black weathering. I think this looks pretty good. If you look at this, it doesn't look like real wood when you look at it up close, but from far away it looks reasonably like wood. The Spengler Neutrona wand also has, of course, the very distinctive green wrap, and it's not something that I'm hugely fond of. When I first saw that they were coming out with these, I immediately pre-ordered a pair of them. I've given one to my nephew. I'll probably roll some of that footage into this video. It would have blown my mind to receive a full-size Neutrona wand if I was his age, and he was pretty excited about it, so I'm pretty happy with that. This green wrap, if you cut this off, there's just like a blank spot there. Some people do make 3D printed pieces and aren't charging a whole lot. They're in some Facebook groups for Ghostbusters, and you'll be able to see people that print those things off and will fit with very little fitting, and people are rewrapping the grips to kind of cover up that 3D printed part. I think I'm going to do that with mine. So, if this is something Egon found comfortable, okay, cool. Egon found this comfortable. But not every Ghostbuster has to have a big old... I've heard some people refer to this as a Slimer blob. It looks like a Slimer blob of tape. It's like, that's a lot of tape. With that said, you know, that's what the modding scene is for. So cut that down, and then we can make it more like a prop that I might myself use if I was in a film and I was a Ghostbuster. Yeah, let's look at the functionality here. So there is a sequence that you have to turn these on in. This is the main on switch for the wand. So if we flip that up, we get a sound effect. And if we turn it off, we get a sound effect. And these sounds do sound very good. You'll notice also that the slow blow light comes on. Right, we turn on the next switch up, and the thing comes to life. You'll see that the power cell meter goes all the way up and then backs down to this kind of middle intensity spot. You've got a white hat light and then an orange hat light. I don't think that's screen accurate for the original 2 movies. Who knows how that's going to work with Ghostbusters Afterlife. The intensity can be adjusted here, even though the blaster isn't heated up. So going left or anti-clockwise will make this go all the way down, and then going clockwise we get a rumble feature, and it will max out the bar. Another thing to note, which is kind of cool and requires a little bit of trial and error to see what the functionality is of these things, because the owner's manual doesn't tell you all the little ins and outs of it. It will actually retain your intensity setting as long as you don't turn the blaster all the way off. So, for example, I've just turned the intensity all the way up. If I turn it off, the blaster is still on. It will not fire right now. None of the other functions work unless we heat it up with this guy here. But if we flip it back on, it will be full intensity. Likewise, if I turn it down and then turn it back on, it's going to go back up and then drop back down to the intensity you set it at. So that's pretty cool that in the, it's kind of a pseudo standby mode, it will do that. Yeah, so we've decided that we're going to set it on the lowest intensity, and this is where the magic happens, people. We're going to power her up. And you can probably hear the motor. It's not terrible. I can hear the motor very well. Sounds like something in here might be rattling, kind of exacerbating the fact that you can hear the sound. If I held it tight, it's still kind of there, but it's also not wholly disruptive. If you let the wand sit without doing anything with it, without doing any functions with it, it shuts down automatically, which is interesting the way they have programmed that. So if I do anything with it, it doesn't do anything. None of the switches turn it back on. It's an auto kill switch, so I do not like that about this. You literally have to switch this off and then switch it back on in order to get the blaster to come back on. That said, I left these in the on position, and what you'll notice is it's on, it's in the on position, it's in the on position, but none of the functionality works. Since this is in the up position, it will allow me to adjust the intensity, but we do have to power up the wand again. So there we go. So I think it is, it's probably just a power saving feature that it turns itself off, but you know, that's really unfortunate if I'm trying to bust ghosts and it decides to turn off. I want it to be ready to go. I don't want to have to turn the unit back off, turn it back on, and then flip this to turn it back on again. It seems like a lot of work to go through. And I need this to be ready when I'm hunting ghosts. I think you guys understand the importance of that, right? So let's go ahead and turn her off. If we flip the switch down here. Oh yes, I love that. I love the long, drawn-out whine that you get. The sound effect may not come through on the camera or my microphone very well, but it sounds really good. It is the stuff that dreams are made of, and it's why you got into Ghostbusters as a kid. That sound is awesome. So we can fire it back up, and then I'll walk you through the shooting modes. So here we go. And let's turn the intensity all the way down. Something to notice is the intensity also affects the sound effect for each of the modes that this goes in. And it also makes the rumble feature more powerful. If we do that, it'll also make the motor a little bit louder. So you can expect that it's, again, not that disturbing. So as we turn this up, I just did 4 or 5 click rotations. There is some kind of detent in there, and you feel it turning up progressively. It was the 4th or 5th click that we saw that second LED light up, and the click before that, the motor gave a good shudder. It always does that on that click up from the lowest power setting, and then you get this, you get that vibration or that start. Ugh. Well, there goes that again. It doesn't give me enough time to talk about it, and that's for sure. So we have to turn the unit off, make sure this is off, and then fire it back up. Start the unit back up. But yeah, starting from completely the lowest power setting, starting with the lowest intensity, we turn it up. 1. On the 4th click, it shudders, and then on the 5th, it actually visibly shows that there's been an intensity change on the LED readout there. One, 2, 3, 4, 5 clicks more. We went to 3. 5 more clicks, it went up to 3/4. And then 5, the bar is full. And it seems like 4 or 5 more, you can still hear the sound effect getting a little bit louder and whining a little bit in a higher pitched or more kind of powerful sounding way. And of course the motor is getting louder, and you can feel more vibration come through. So that's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and give it a shot or two. So the button that says intensify is the fire button. So here we go. And it is a good clicky action. I do feel like the button sits up a little bit high. You can see perhaps that there is the white plastic portion that extends all the way through. It's a tactile switch down inside there. I feel like that's a little bit long. I wish the button sits a little bit closer to this to kind of hide that white. But I think they did that so that you can maybe reach it better. It might be more screen accurate, I don't know. I've also noticed with the sound effects that you can tap it. And when you hit it and let go, when you do quick momentary taps with it, you get a different sound effect than you get if you were to hold it down. So it's interesting the way that they program that. It's not like you're just getting the beginning of the sound when you do a momentary. You're getting what's essentially the end of the sound. let's turn it up. We gotta go the right way. Just go full stream. This also has an overheat feature. This was introduced in the Ghostbusters the video game for Xbox and PlayStation and whatnot. It's actually a pretty decent game. It's intended as a love story to the fans, and I recommend that you play it. It's the spiritual Ghostbuster 3, and you should play it because it's pretty good. It's a third-person over-the-shoulder shooter, more so than paranormal investigation. But it's good, and it has every one of the actors' voices, and it was written by the appropriate parties, so that's pretty cool. But let's go ahead and use that overload feature. Oh no! Well, so there's the one turning itself off again. Even though we heard it kind of go into that shutdown mode, it shut down. So we have to turn it off, heat it back up, and you can see the bar. You can see that the bar was filling up, like it's overloading, and then it does, and it shuts the unit down, which is a common theme with this device. So we go off, power it back up. Let's see if it shuts down sooner if we have it on low power versus high power. So we have it on the lowest, 1001, crank up the intensity, 1001. Okay, so it doesn't appreciably increase the heat up rate, or rather it doesn't decrease the amount of time that you have while shooting appreciably. 10 seconds in Mississippi being a super scientific form of measurement. Let's just go ahead and go through the various modes, which the overheat feature works the same way in those modes. Fire it up. I'm going to put it on the lowest setting for intensity. And let's switch feature with this button. Now we're in the slime blower mode. You can see a very faint green throbbing there. And nothing else about this changes except for the slime churning sound. Full slime intensity sound. And low slime intensity sound. And this is what it looks like. This is what momentary sounds like. It does not sound like the slime tethers, however, which is a thing that you used as a physics puzzle solving thing where you could connect two objects and they stretch together. Well, it pulls together, rather. It doesn't sound like that, but it just sounds like a little bit of splooshing out some green slime. Which in Ghostbusters, the video game, the slime is green. Which doesn't mean the trap is clean. This mode is the stasis stream. The stasis stream was activated by pressing the left trigger, where your right trigger, it fires a shotgun kind of blast. So here we go with stasis stream. This is the low intensity sound. And the high intensity. Now, in Ghostbusters the video game, they make a big deal about saying that it's not a freeze ray, but it does effectively freeze the ghosts. so they softened it to give it a freezy kind of sound. It doesn't make a sound like this in the game, but it still sounds pretty cool. And this is what it looks like. Okay, so that was the Stasis Stream. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Stasis Blast. I forget if they call it the Shock Blast or the Stasis Blast, but the mode of the Proton Pack in Ghostbusters, the video game that the Stasis Stream is on, also has the shotgun type of mode. It's the game shotgun. I think that's what they're going for with this sound here. So here we go. Stasis Stream. And then the Stasis Blast. And then, last but not least, this is the Meson Collider. So it's kind of cool. It goes up in intensity as we turn up the intensity. And that's the hold down function. If you hold it down, the Meson Collider is kind of well, the alternate fire is a machine gun style mode. I think the machine gun mode is kind of what they're going for with that. If you click this rapidly, the primary mode is a kind of a power shot. Holding it down is what the alternate fire or the right hand trigger did. It's got kind of a cool effect. Also muddying the waters is the fact that the guns are the wand and pack is upgradable in the game, so the machine gun mode doesn't machine gun that fast at first, and then so the sounds kind of change a little bit and stuff. But I think that's what they're going for with it. Pretty cool all in all. It's awesome that they put those modes into the wand, even if they don't manifest in the same exact way that they did in the video game. I feel like they kind of copied from, or took inspiration rather, from what the community is doing anyway. A lot of the mods that people do, the really nice Proton Pack custom built ones, the sound cards and stuff, they use the Ghostbusters, the video game sounds and put appropriate lights with them and stuff, just to give it more variety, and people like that stuff. I think it's awesome. So that's pretty much the Ghostbusters Spengler's Neutrona wand by Hasbro in a nutshell. Pros, it's sick, it's full size, it's awesome. They cost $99 where you can get your hands on them. If you pre-ordered, you waited 3 or 4 weeks longer than you needed to, which really sucks. I've been a kind of disappointed curmudgeon about that, because I wanted to put a YouTube video out first and be among the first to show it, aside, of course, from like big YouTube channels. But now here I am, a day late and a dollar short. So I appreciate you watching, and make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. It goes a long way to making my feelings feel better. My fifis are kind of hurt by Hasbro Pulse. It's a good looking prop. I feel like the weathering is pretty acceptable. They don't go too overkill. There's some stuff that I'm going to do to it, and I think there's some stuff that you should do to it, just to kind of customize it and make it your own. I know people are doing mods to unbend the trigger tip on the wand. It's soft. I can like kind of mold mine. I kind of want to take this off, see if I can pry it off. I imagine it's glue. This is like rubber, and this is acrylic, I believe. So I think that we could probably pry this off pretty readily, put it in the oven maybe, and then bend it back. But certainly do some more weathering to it, unweather some parts, weather some other stuff up quite a bit more. Perhaps do a 3D printed grip, and then rewrap it with maybe black tape or like black and brown or something like that, and go from there. Of course, I want to go ahead and add the bend to that so I can launch the tip out from this side of the controls. It's worth noting that a lot of people are having issues with the tip. If you're going to be playing with this as a toy, I would expect this the wiring on the wand to break. A lot of people are getting wands that are not lighting up, that one of the LEDs are not lighting, and that's very sad because you would have to take it apart and fix it. Or if you bought it on from Hasbro Pulse, and I hope you didn't because you would have got it late, you have nowhere to return it to without paying for shipping, and you already paid for shipping if you bought it on Hasbro Pulse. So that's kind of sad. I know that GameStop actually had these on sale, and you could get it for like $89, which would have been really cool. So people were getting these day one, and they were getting them for less, and they didn't have to pay shipping. Hasbro Pulse, as of right now, has them for sale for $99, and they are out of stock, but I know you can get them elsewhere. I would say go ahead and get yours because I lusted after the Mattel wand for like several years, and they are collector's items now, and they are like $700, and you have to basically get a 3D printed wand or other resin or aluminum parts and put kits together and stuff like that to make a really nice wand, along with people's custom electronics and stuff, which is great to support those guys and to make a really nice prop quality piece. But if you're like me and you want to do it easy, something like this is a great way to go. They're great for modders. It's great just as a shelf piece, just like it is, but it's not good enough for me, dang it. With that said, I would be careful with using the switch to let that tip fly out. Apparently the LEDs are breaking in some of them or coming broken from factory. I don't know if it's a soldering thing. I've seen pictures of wires broken, the wire that extends from the LEDs to the control board. That can break, and if that's the case, it sounds like they need to have some strain relief built into this. I may rewire mine completely with some strain relief, or may find some ways to put strain relief in on the wiring that's already there. For example, if it's like one place that it's connected to the LED array, I might loop that wire down and then hot glue it in place so that the hot glue takes the stress of it opening and closing. I know that some people are doing twist mods because we do see in the movies where they can twist them. There's some concept, some idea that people think that that's what makes this kind of thing eject, which I don't know that that's the case. I think that the lever is present in the movies. But with that said, you can mod this and make this a twistable grip, and I think that's cool. I would do that if it weren't for the wires on the inside. If I can find a way to stabilize the wires and put some stress relief or strain relief in there, then I might undertake that mod myself. You do have a Dixie cup style hook on the side here, and of course you've got the side plate, relatively screen accurate. This does work with the Dixie hook mount that I have. I don't know that I would want to bump the unit. I can get it to come off if I pry on it a little bit. With just a little bit of modification, take the screws out, I could bend it just a hair to get that to mount onto my current Spirit Pack build and have that go on the Dixie hook mod that I had there. You of course have this hook, which is not screen accurate, but there are scenes where they have their wands hanging from their belts, so they've got some sort of hook to do that with. They just put this thing on there. It doesn't bother me too much. We have great little details like the stickers and the I guess you would call that, because it's not a sticker, I guess you would call it like screen printing. So you got those kind of markings, electrical diagram. The markings are all very good. The little arrow, the little diagram showing the stream, a slow blow sticker. This is kind of a rubber. All in all, I'm pretty happy with it. It does come with a cap, and we can unscrew this cap and that's what it looks like on the inside. It's flat, and that's how we take our batteries out. And you can see the silver there. There's two little springy contact points on the inside. This just kind of a cartridge. I guess that's just so you didn't have to put in 3 separate AA batteries. You can also use an LR6 battery, which I haven't seen that. I don't know what that is. I know that some people are modding them to use external battery packs. It's not too hard. It's a 3 1.5 volts is 4.5 volts, so you could make this attach this to your current proton pack, power however you're powering your other stuff. Just give it 4.5 volts, or probably plus or minus 20% of that. If I get the batteries to come out, I will say that this is a little bit obnoxious, this case. It's very, very tight to get the batteries in there. This tab, it floats back and forth, and it's very easy to try and like jam the batteries in there and want to bend it and stuff. I just kind of start at the back, load my first battery in the correct way, and I hold the battery back and make sure that you're not crushing that piece. The piece is not strong enough to hold the battery in, and it's not strong enough to butt the battery up against. You're going to just wind up bending it. So you put the battery in and you hold it, and then you put the next battery in and you keep it held back, and then you put the next battery in, keeping it held back. And then everything's in there. It's nice and tight. There's no wiggle room. They don't fall out easily. That might be what they were thinking with this, but first, I'm trying to put the batteries in and they're bending, and it's just a little bit weird. But yeah, this part goes to the front, and there we go. It also comes with this piece, which you can put probably 1/2 inch split loom over that. This piece butts up against that battery piece, so we can install that. And then there we have a unit that can be attached to a proton pack. There's some speculation as to them actually coming out with like a Spengler's proton pack or something like that. That'll be cool. I can't wait to see it if they do. Some people have already done the audio mod where they will actually put a speaker jack in there and allow the sounds from the blaster to come out through anything else that can take an audio auxiliary input. I think I'm going to be doing that myself. If I do, I will try and take you on that journey with me. But for now, we're just going to leave it as the other. It also comes with this nifty stand. It has our favorite friend Moogly there, the Ghostbusters No Ghost logo. It's flimsy. It comes in like 9 different parts. It's keyed so that you know this one goes there because it's flat. And you stick that piece in there, and then this piece is round and it goes in there. And this piece actually stays put pretty well, and it's got a keyway, and that goes there, and that piece is a different size than the other. They rotate freely, and they're very flimsy. And I've heard of people breaking these already simply by setting the wand on it in the incorrect position. You'll notice that it's missing the middle one, which is floating around in the box, so it's keyed as well, but it still doesn't stay put very well. It's intended so you can just set her down and rest her like so. But you'll notice if I try and hold it up to the camera, this thing just wants to weeble all over the place. So it's really just meant to be set just like this. Some people have tried setting it up and setting it at an angle because frankly it looks better that way. I don't blame those people. Or at an angle like this to kind of show it on its good side, so it would look kind of like that on your shelf. Well, apparently this thing breaks, so maybe don't do that, or reinforce it somehow and make it your own custom Johnny Awesome Ghostbusters Neutrona wand. That's pretty much it, folks. It will still fire with the Neutrona wand tip retracted. Like I said before, the electronics are a little bit weird, so you just saw a second ago, I turned it on, I powered it up, and then I flipped on what is essentially the intensity control and its corresponding LED lights, and well, it didn't come on because the other things were powering on, so it didn't recognize that input, and so I had to turn it off, and now when I turn it back on, it will recognize that input. One thing to note is with the switch off, the intensity control doesn't do anything, which is interesting and thorough, since this bar is supposed to show the intensity of the stream. This is supposed to be an intensity adjuster, and if at any point you flip this switch off, the whole unit turns off. I don't like the auto power off. I believe this is what would be called the standby mode. In the movies at different points, you can see them walking around. This could be on the pack. And at least with my Spirit pack with the Sponge Face McGee electronics kit with the one light upgrade kit, the pack can be put into a standby mode, and essentially you have this switch on and this switch off, and the lights will stay on the pack and on the wand, and you could have it either just kind of blinking in a standby mode or have one of the lights fixed with the bar jumping along with the power cell on the pack. I don't know if that's screen prop accurate, but it's nice to be able to have another feature that's kind of doing something when you're kind of walking around and, you know, at your anime dance party in Houston at Numbers. As far as I understand, there's no standby mode to keep this prop active, which is a little bit sad, and I haven't heard anybody talking about it yet. It just kind of auto shuts off, which makes sense on some level. If we turn it on, we can get it to overload, and it's a little bit frustrating that if you overload it, you're obviously playing with the device. In Ghostbusters, the video game, where that overload feature was part of the game, it was kind of its reload feature. You had to dissipate the heat from the pack. Otherwise, you would go into a slightly longer overload kind of heat dissipation. So you would manually let that off. I kind of wish there was a button to manually let that off, so you could kind of, you know, it kind of makes a noise and like steam or smoke kind of shoots out the back of the pack. No such feature here, but you do get the overcharge sound and the pack sound. Now I'm replaying Ghostbusters the video game right now, so that's kind of something that stands out to me, is that the pack has a overload warning. You'll hear the sound, and it hasn't overloaded at that point. You can stop firing and hit your right bumper, and then the pack will vent. You can't do that with this. You can't do that with the Sponge Face McGee electronics pack either. What the Sponge Face McGee mod does, though, is when the pack overheats, it goes into its auto vent cooldown whatchamadoodle, and then you can start firing again. With the Spengler's Neutrona one by Hasbro, it shuts the unit down. You have to turn it off and then turn it back on, and then you can start firing again. So here we go. We're going to shoot in the proton stream, overcharge it, and it will require being turned back on. See, at this point you could stop and the game invent it itself. This doesn't vent, and it just kind of goes into a we're turning off mode, and that's it. Goodbye, game over. So that's a little bit, that's not as fun to me, because, well, I overheated. Okay, now let me shoot. Redo the thing. I suspect perhaps they are paying tribute to something that might happen in Ghostbusters Afterlife. Perhaps they overheat it. We get to hear the sound from the video game. That'd be a cool nod to the fans of the video game. And then perhaps the pack shuts down and requires them to flip all the switches off and then flip all the switches back on. But every time you overheat this thing, you have to switch the switches back on, which is a little bit lame in my opinion. If you overheat this in any of the other modes, you have to switch the unit off, switch it back on, and then switch back to those modes. It's another reason why I don't care too much for the overheat feature on this, because it kind of gets in the way, it complicates the electronics, and perhaps the complication of the electronics or the programming of it is why they chose to do it that way, but it's a little bit cheesy in my opinion. If we turn this on, one thing it does do, however, is we can switch to a different mode. So we're in the slime blower mode. We can be in the slime blower mode. We can turn it all the way up. Turn off the intensity control. It retains that intensity. It stays in the slime blower mode. Intensity control doesn't do anything. We can turn the activate switch off, and it will still retain the slime blower mode if it hasn't been turned off yet, or if it hasn't auto shut off. It's remembered our intensity, and it's remembered our mode even though we shut the activate off. Turn it all the way up. It's still on, our slow blow light's still on. Unit's still on. If I power it up, it should still be in the stasis mode. Also, since we turned the intensity up, the intensity is staying up. Again, we can turn the activate switch off, and there you have it. Turn it back on. It's going to switch back over to the Meson collider. There we go. And it's retained our setting there. It was approximately 25 seconds that it waited before it decided to shut the whole unit down. We had it in a quasi nice standby where we were able to, have the nice lights on, and it automatically turns off. Again, that's kind of my least favorite thing about this. So it's pretty cool while you're using it, but it'd be nice if there was a shelf mode or something like that where you could, say, have this sitting on a shelf, and you can have it just constantly be lit and powered by an AC adapter or something like that. So it sounds like that's probably a pretty intrusive mod to have to go and do. Somebody smarter than me will figure it out. That is the Spengler's Neutrona wand from Hasbro. I want to thank you all for watching. If you guys don't like this sort of content, well, that's fine. I also do gun videos as well as other fun videos, so you should definitely check out the rest of the channel. Comment, leave me a comment. Subscribe. We like it when you subscribe. The hive mind. So definitely subscribe and give me money on Patreon, because money is good, and you want to just give me money. No, don't do that. If you can, do that, because that would make me very happy. It would make me a very happy camper. But I'm a nerd, so here is some nerd content for you. I like Ghostbusters, and here is some Ghostbusters content. This is a Ghostbusters thing, and I think that you should get one if it would make you happy. Does it spark joy? It sparks joy for me. If this sparks joy for you, make sure to get one. If it doesn't spark joy for you, don't. If this video sparked joy for you, make sure to click like and then subscribe. That helps me quite a bit. Commenting would be fun. It's good to get comments and know that my videos are appreciated. And what would really, really help is if you would share this video with somebody that you think might appreciate it as well. Thank you for watching, and, have a nice day.